Hey guys, Devon with the Big Biz Show, and I am joined today by none other than Claude. Claude, tell us where you're coming from today.
Hey, how you doing? I'm from Los Angeles. I run Onar, O-N-A-R. We're currently traded on OTCQB under the ticker RELT, but that will soon be O-N-A-R. We have a ticker change coming down the line here. So here at the conference and excited to be here.
Awesome. Here at the Microcap Conference 2025, tell me what Onar is doing here.
So we're a marketing technology company. Technology first. We own kind of a collection or a network of marketing agencies, as we call it. Simply said, we help people sell stuff, but we do it technologically enabled, better, faster, stronger, if you will. And we're here talking to investment banks, investors, people in the space. We're rolling up and acquiring other companies right now, and so we're bringing in capital to the business as we grow to eventually uplist to NASDAQ.
So, in a sense, you're kind of like almost a greenhouse for businesses to grow in.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of saying it. Yeah, we're looking to kind of find really interesting, technologically enabled marketing companies that are doing stuff different, that maybe aren't quite scaled yet, and we're putting them together kind of under one roof, helping them grow, scaling their businesses profitably, but also taking those pieces of technology, putting them together, and kind of creating our own products that we can then offer to the market.
With this company, you're telling stories, you're fostering a good business environment for the businesses. Where did that begin with you?
So look, I have a very non-traditional background, not a banker, not anything like that, never, been CEO of a public company until we kind of got here. I'd say much more of an entrepreneurial journey. Funny story, I was signed to an imprint on Warner Brothers, toured the country with a major record label, started a music company. That was my first business when I was at the ripe age of 18 years old. Started that in New York City, built that business up, actually built one of the largest, I guess, more prominent recording studio facilities in New York at the time. Worked on 22 Grammy Award-winning projects, everything from Drake and Eminem through Yo-Yo Ma, Chicago Symphony Orchestra, and then started an artist management company where I managed the Chainsmokers when they first launched their career, which was pretty cool. So yeah, kind of creative brain became business brain, and then after moving on from that business, I kind of fell into the marketing and advertising world by way of music, right? Music is part of everything, right? We have a cocktail party tonight. Last night there was a band playing there, right? So brands want to borrow brand equity and participate during times of year where there's social things happening. Think South by Southwest, Art Basel, things like that. So ended up starting a marketing company in the private sector really around experiences that were tied to key times a year. And they taught me about leverage buyouts and corporate finance. And so I started making acquisitions. I did about 8 acquisitions, grew the business to almost 100 million in revenue, and then exited that business in 2021 before getting recruited to come run Onar.
Tell me some recent success stories you guys have had. I know you got a few.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, the big success story right now is that we just completed this reverse merger. We were a privately traded company about 6 months ago. We're now a publicly traded company, which is super exciting. We also announced a very interesting partnership with IQSTEL. They're a publicly traded company, also going to NASDAQ, almost a $500 million revenue company. We're working on some pretty cool technology partnerships with them. And I think the big exciting thing we're going to announce in the coming weeks is we have a very interesting acquisition that we're going to be announcing that has a piece of technology that basically helps people in real time optimize their website using AI. So essentially think of it as search engine optimization, but completely autonomous and completely done in real time.
That's amazing. And it's Onar. Once again, what's the stock ticker?
Currently it's RELT because we did a reverse merger into Reliant Holdings, which was the old parent company. But we just got our FINRA approval. We're going to be trading under ONAR within the next few days.
Onar. It's the exact opposite of my company, Offer.
Exactly right. I like that.
All right. Well, Claude, anything else you want to tell me? What are we looking forward to in 2025?
Look, I think in 2025, we're looking forward to kind of telling our story, getting out in front of shareholders and people who are interested in what we're doing. And I think being, a pioneer in the space that's going to demonstrate that we can create a lot of value, run a good fundamental business, and hopefully execute on a strategy that's going to be pretty exciting as we grow and scale NASDAQ.
Well, I just want to hang on to that real quick. You guys are looking forward to telling your story, which is interesting because your whole company is telling other companies' stories and enhancing that.
Correct.
So you're kind of leading forward with example in 2025 is what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I think that's a good way of saying it. Yeah, I mean, look, it's funny. Marketing companies aren't always great at telling their own stories because they're so focused on their clients. And we're making a big initiative this year to tell our own story and communicate what we're doing and kind of let that lead us. So I think it's a really good way of looking at it.
Awesome. This is Claude with Onar, and we're going to be checking out this story throughout the year. Check back in with us. This is Devon and Claude at Microcap 2025. Back to you guys.
Take care.
500 studios. What you're seeing right now is the best in the business. That is the Day Trader Trio, otherwise known as the DTT.
Or as Greg Conrad likes to call them, the Greg Kinnear Band.
I am Costa. Marybird Godwin is at the bar, as well as our executive producer, Greg Todoroff.
I love when somebody is so cocksure that they're right, and then they say, oh, that's right, you're right.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right.
That's not the romantic.
I did have some
How
arrogance.
could you possibly think
I did have
that's
some
the
arrogance
romantic?
behind that. Usually I'm pretty good at music trivia, but
Well, but that's with
in that particular.
That's when you have a beverage in your hand. It's early in the morning.
Vitamin T. I miss my vitamin T.
Kirk Huntsman is in, of course, CEO of Vivos, Vivos.com. Changed the entire studio's life. All set.
Oh, absolutely.
If you've not heard Kirk and his team, you certainly will, because there's a documentary, as we call Bizumentary, coming out here very shortly, that'll air on BizTV, also on Bloomberg, over the next 9 months to talk about, and it's not just about Vivos, it's about obstructive sleep apnea.
Yep.
And you guys just happen to be the stars because you're changing the world on it.
Yeah.
For the people who haven't seen you, and I'm surprised if anyone in our audience hasn't, give a quick overview of what you guys are up to.
Okay, so obstructive sleep apnea is this pervasive epidemic that's going on that very few people are even aware of or talking about, but it afflicts 1 billion people here on planet Earth. So 1 out of 8 people
And
walking
most people
around.
don't know about it.
And most people don't realize they have it because we sleep through it, right? So what we get are all the downstream effects of it. So we now know that sleep apnea is a contributing factor, if not the primary causal factor behind cardiovascular disease and cancer and fibromyalgia. All the chronic conditions that plague modern men and women is being traced right back to obstructive sleep apnea. So this is a major health issue. We now have this new administration, in place that is Make America Healthy Again, and their attack on chronic disease is really a big focal point of what they want to try to do. Because if we can tackle the chronic disease, we can tackle the exorbitant costs that this country is experiencing in healthcare.
And the non-productivity as a result of it.
Oh, exactly. Somebody said the other day, $4 trillion.
Oh.
$4 trillion due to all chronic diseases, not just obstructive sleep apnea. So our entry point into this whole, health cycle is through obstructive sleep apnea, but it just completely goes out into a lot of other things.
So if you think in terms of how sleep apnea has been treated in the past, it's usually with a CPAP machine, right?
Oh, yeah.
A breathing device with a tube in your face next to the bed, right? This is not that. This is something completely, and I don't think the efficacy of that is as good as I think the public thinks, because it's been around so long. I think it's just the only
thing out there, right?
Yeah, so we're talking 40 years. So it was like 1985 that the first CPAPs started to come onto the market. So we're talking 40 years. And, I mean, would any of us drive a car that was 40 years old? And yet every day, millions of Americans are being put into CPAPs. And we're schlepping them around on airplanes and on holidays and to parties and whatever because we are afraid we're not going to wake up in the morning if we don't have our CPAP. And so it's just, we now have an alternative. That's the Vivo, if you want to say, what is Vivos' message to the world? Get tested.
They sleep tested, right?
Sleep tested.
Which now you can do at home.
You can do it at
right?
home. Yeah. It's a ring on a finger and a Bluetooth connection to your phone.
You did that, right, Mike?
I did.
You
I did it too.
Yeah.
I did it too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just sitting here complaining that I'm tired and all this stuff, and he's looking at me like, maybe you need to come see us.
But what's interesting, I find, it's the tired thing. You're sure you're tired, but the aha moment is when you talk to their staff and you realize all this other stuff that you're complaining about or is happening to you or whatever could all come back to this hub of the wheel, so to speak,
exactly.
of all of your medical issues or your emotional issues or lack in weight loss or even things that come down to behavioral. With children.
Depression, anxiety.
It all come down to this sleep apnea. And what I've learned about this is it comes down to this breathing way that goes from here to here. It's this long. And your body will contort itself any way it can without you knowing it, much like roots of a tree going around a boulder or around a Volkswagen to continue feeding itself into the door. Your body will contort, and you don't know it's contorting, but they want to keep that airline open.
Right.
Hence, here comes Mike I've not slept since '72. So it's an oral device. Talk about your experience, Mike.
So the process, maybe you talked about the sleeping test, wearing the ring, and going to see my dentist, oral surgeon, Dr. Perps. She is the one who got
fantastic,
me.
by the way.
Absolutely fantastic.
Have you heard of concierge medicine?
Yeah.
It's when you feel like you're checking into a hotel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is that place.
Right.
And I think a lot of patients, I think every high-digit dermatology place looks like that. This is what this practice is like in the dental world.
Right. You're just not a number on some file. Anyhow. She walked me through the whole process. She did the X-rays, the tests, the whatnot. She helped me administered the sleep test. She measured my mouth. She got all these incredible pictures, et cetera, et cetera. And I thought that I was going to have to do like, a mouth mold, sit there for like 5 minutes with plaster.
Come into the sleep center, Mike. There's 12 people you don't know that you'll be sleeping with today.
And I said, okay, so when do I do the mold? She goes, mouth mold. She goes, no, we send these 3D pictures to Vivos. They are going to manufacture your device, and they will send it back to me.
But you don't have to put the gooey gunk and sit there
Nothing.
like you did.
And then you go back to the office, and she hands you this beautiful box, and you take everything out.
I thought it was going to be an iPad.
Unboxing.
No, and then you get this little case here with your 2 oral devices.
What? Hold one up for us.
It's like a little retainer.
Wow.
And you pop it in your mouth at night, and it has been incredible. And I am not paid by Vivos. I am not a spokesman for Vivos. I am just telling you the truth. Anybody who's watching this show.
What's it been, 2 weeks now?
About 2 weeks, and I have to. I'll let you behind the green curtain a little bit. My wife suffered a stroke a couple weeks ago, and in the process of getting her back to healthy, back to 100%, sleep, deep sleep, is one of the most important things. And Kirk and Vivos, I honestly believe, came into my life at the right time for this reason, because now I can sleep with her in the bed. I need to be there with her. I'm not in the guest room.
You mean you're not forced to the guest room?
I'm not forced to the guest room or the couch, and I'm not
Relegated.
I'm not replaced by a Labrador Retriever like I used to be, and I am not keeping her awake. I am sleeping more sound because
now,
I'm not snoring.
Now, Kurt. So weekly, he's going to take a key.
Yes.
And basically modify how that fits in his mouth, not his teeth, but how the palate works and how everything around it, to sort of expand it, to expand his airway. Is that about right?
Yeah, so what we discovered with Mike, like most patients, is that Mike's airway is inadequate and it's prone to collapse. And what we're trying to do is redevelop his airway so that it's open and what we call patent, which means it's not prone to collapse. And that takes a little bit of time. Probably you'll be doing this for about 9 months, maybe a year.
Yep.
You got to be compliant with this, right? So,
you got to do it. 100%.
You got to do it. Now, hopefully you haven't had any discomfort and any and your body is adjusting to it, so you're starting.
I forget it's there.
Yeah.
And your adjustments aren't painful.
That's what I was going to ask, because when I wore a retainer when I was young, it was like every time you
it's not like when an orthodontist would tighten the wires and stuff. And maybe it's because my mind is on other things, obviously.
Right.
I forget it's there. I wake up in the morning and I'll go, I got to take this out. And, and I pop it in around 7:30. And I wear it all the way through the night and take it out when I get up.
Are you already sleeping better?
Oh my God.
Really? Just like that?
Again.
Are you dreaming? Let me ask you a question. Have you
like
started
a banshee?
Are you dreaming?
Thank you. My wife says, "Hey, Mr. Rem," she goes, "You're all over the place. You're kicking. You're doing this. You're that type of thing." And I'm, hey, blame Vivos. Don't blame me.
So we're going to have Dr. Bahar here in just a second to kind of walk us through the mechanics, because there's more to this than just the oral device. There's potentially other practitioners that need to reconnoiter yourself, because your twisted root structure to try to keep this thing open needs to come back. And we saw these photographs of Shaquille O'Neal, where you guys use very rudimentary geometrical shapes. So let's assume an upside down triangle represents from here to here. Yeah. Well, he looked like a Jenga at first. There he is, right there. Oh, yeah. And he didn't know it. He didn't realize it. But after having the treatment, after some time between doing Vivos and the other practitioners. Do we know if Mike's going to be in that position or not yet, where he has to do it, or will time tell?
I think we're off to a good start with what Mike's doing. Mike's case, first of all, every case is going to be different.
Yeah.
So obviously a 7'2" human is going to present with a little different profile than Mike or any of the rest of us. And so every one of us has a little bit different thing. And so we're going to, and that's why there's potentially several different types of clinicians that will have involvement in each case, but not all of them in every case. And so that's kind of where we're,
And when you think about this, you can't deny that experiencing obstructive sleep apnea, it's life-threatening.
Oh yeah.
Every single night it's life-threatening. And that's a part of it that's a little interesting. We're going to talk to Dr. Bahar. She's going to be on the set here in just a second. She's going to walk you through how the sausage is made and the next steps here. Big Biz Show.
In over 175 countries and all the ships at sea on the American Forces Network. Always a great shout out to the brave men and women of our United States Armed Forces for what you do, what you've done for us. Big Biz Show rolls on inside the Loft 100 studios. Sitting here at the bar, Costa, Maribert Godwin, our executive producer, is Greg Tylerov, Sully, and some very, very special, life-changing guests with us back in studio.
Well, we've got Kirk Huntsman, but I want you to make the introduction.
Okay.
To Dr. Bahar, because she is your chief. Well, she's basically the boss over there.
Let's
She's
just
the boss
get down
here,
to it.
too.
Yeah. So look, Dr. Bahar, over the course of the last few years, has become one of the preeminent sleep specialists in the world. Now, she knows, that's part of her demo, by the way.
Part of her demo.
It's part of her demo.
Oh, this is?
Yes.
This is my demo.
Yeah.
And so she has.
I was about to yell at my crew.
She has, yeah, really. She has clients flying in from all over the world. She's got people in Dubai and the Middle East, and she's got people from Europe and South America. They're flying into Denver, Colorado to be treated by this woman for breathing and sleep disorders. We talked a little bit about this guy's breathing and sleep disorder, and what she would like to do today is just sort of describe for your audience in very succinct terms sort of what health is. So
define health for us. What is health?
We're in the era of chronic disease and health, and the one thing that people don't understand is what is health. Health is not having symptoms and disease. This is health right here. This is health. This is you as one encapsulated system with a tight cap, and what's inside is all of our everything that's going on inside our body to regulate. What's outside is our structure, okay? And this is the world putting stressors on us, mental, physical, chemical, lifestyle, right? Look, this thing doesn't budge, does it? Okay. Compare that to this. It's got a leak. The stresses of the world come in.
Sounds like Mike when he gets out of bed in the morning.
And look, right? It can't.
What's he doing there?
I make him sleep here. I make him sleep here.
How do you know about that?
He walks by my
Poor Meg
dumpster.
calls us up and complains.
Kirk for the win.
When you come to see me or one of our doctors, this is you, okay? So this is what the medical doctors do. Let's CPAP you. We fixed it, right? Until
So by blowing that up, the CPAP is going to continuous positive air pressure. Blow that
just
back
like
up.
that. Okay, so that's your airway, okay? Until you wake up and you take the CPAP off and go through the world, and the stressors of the world, physically, mentally, chemistry, come back,
Right.
and you carry that to bed.
Yeah, right.
And you can't do that with that bottle.
No.
No.
Yeah, just
So what
sealed
do you
up,
call that?
tight seal.
Resilience?
Health is resilience, meaning that when what's inside and the structure can hold against what's outside, barometric pressure, nutrition, emotional, mental, this thing is sealed structurally and is full. What's inside is that resilience, right? Okay, now compare that to this. This guy's half full, okay? And take a bit of a beating. This is a less complex patient. And when you have a leak, this is the part where I would see as a dentist, this cap is the tongue at the roof, okay? So if you have all things going on for you, but you cannot breathe properly and your tongue is not at the roof of your mouth for whatever reason, this thing goes back to bed.
So the cap is the tongue.
I'm not going to do this for the purpose of demo, but imagine if this thing with a leaky cap goes vertical, what's going to happen when you're in a horizontal? your adaptive capacity is leaking when you should be charging at night when you're asleep.
So that's why this one only has half.
And then you end up like this the next day.
That's more like Mike. This is more like me, empty, like my soul.
Me too. Yeah.
Yes, that is actually true. And the fact of the matter is, people have different levels of complexity, and they've had different things happen to them in life, from the minute they were conceived, how they made it to the world through breath, and what kind of nutrition they had access to, and all that. So the difference between this two is one where it's complex and less, but the goal is to turn them into this. This is the goal, to seal this cap off, get their mouth and the tongue and the nose an opportunity to properly function, so that the night can be a restorative sleep, so that they keep filling this back up. Because who doesn't want to be 90 years old and like that?
So Dr.
You don't
Bahar,
want to be like this, right?
So the idea is, as you're going through this,
You don't want to be like this.
well, but these are the other practitioners, right? When you take a look at it, because you mentioned something yesterday, it's not as simple as putting in appliance and turning the key.
Yeah.
So for me, and that's where I got the analogies from. There's other stuff going on.
Correct.
And my body has a root structure that's trying to keep this airway open.
Correct.
And it's contorting itself without me knowing it. Just like
Exactly.
Shaq. I say me and Shaq are a lot alike. That's
I can attest to that. Actually, no. He's a little bit less hyper than you.
Yeah, boy.
Said the hyper doctor.
Exactly. The clock calling the kettle black.
I could hold his attention about 10 seconds more than you, so I can attest.
Here, so from here,
Yeah.
here or here,
Right.
to here.
So here's the thing. So here's the structure. Like I said, this is the
But talk
orthopedic.
about the journey.
Yeah, what's the journey?
Yeah, the journey.
How are we going to go
When
from that to that?
Exactly. When I look at this, the first thing is structure is contorted. Like this is the forward head posture. Okay. So, well, obviously this structure is not holding this person right in this bottle. And when you go into bed, now you have to attain this compromised position to continue keeping that airway from collapsing, that pretzel, right? So what happens is when I see this patient, my goal is to first get their structure right so they can hold that water. And what's underneath and the way they supported their head on top of that base, they assume those compensations.
So I asked this question yesterday. So the airway thing is the issue. I said, is this why my arms go numb when I go to sleep?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Like, it's like,
Me too.
It's like,
Okay.
she goes,
Yes.
it's like, hey, Captain Obvious. Maybe it's not just an oral
I
device
want
that we
to
have to
rename
go.
obstructive sleep apnea as the new foot and mouth disease.
Oh, yeah, really.
Right, because the way you're supporting your body on top of your base of support and where your head is in relation, because the most collapsible part of our airway is on the top. It's our neck. And the orientation of our neck to our feet suffices to do three things. Make sure that we can breathe, balance ourselves when we're standing on 2 feet, and our head doesn't fall forward. Meaning we have to support all of those things. Every level of compensation you assume is to suffice those three things. And you can't do that here, which is why we're leaking quality
So
sleep
I'll just tell you something really quick. I was on the phone this morning with a cardiologist from Chicago who said to me, Kirk, whenever you have a chance, make sure that the world hears the message that obstructive sleep apnea is cardiovascular disease.
That's true.
And so if you're feeling cardiovascular, things, it's because it's all connected.
So a little inside baseball. So I am a little militant about a couple things. Credit report, I check every single day. And I have a concierge doctor, I do a physical. It's a 3-day physical I do every 9 months. And this is, it's everything that you can imagine. That started about 6 years ago. And he does everything from, he'll be able to say, and the last thing he said to me is, you have a 10% chance of an incident in the next 20 years. Let's find out why. And it was a pretty simple issue. So the funny part is, so I would call him up and I would say, I got to go see a back surgeon because it is a painful, like it's a nerve thing. It's got to be a nerve thing. Because I can't get out of this unless I sit up straight. There's nothing I can do sometimes. And then what came to life was I had 3 serious surf injuries in my life, and I lost 3 teeth out of it in the back. Had to get them extracted. So all this comes together, and I'm talking to her yesterday saying, okay, wait a minute, all of these things could be related.
Yes.
All right, there is so much more that we need to talk about as far as what Vivos is doing to change people's lives and, in a sense, giving them their lives back, kicking that sleep apnea out the door. Kirk Huntsman, Dr. Bahar with us. Much more to come. Keep it right here on The Big Biz Show. right, we're back. Big Biz Show rolls on. Very special day. It's special anytime we have Kirk Huntsman and Dr. Bahar in studio with us, telling us about this wonderful technology they have developed through Vivos. And basically the bottom line is giving people their lives back, getting rid of sleep apnea, returning their sleep, which they have done with me.
Yes.
And I think it comes down to, it's less about breathing for me. It's personally.
Because this whole structure holds itself together, correct? So every level of compensation you take physically, it's going to impact what's inside. So that resilience, which leads to when body has to compensate, there's only one way that it responds: inflammation. Inflammation is the root of all chronic diseases, and there goes all the other things that has to compensate. Like I said, the blood flow to the brain and from the brain. So if your brain is not getting oxygen and blood, it's not getting the toxins removed.
So it's interesting just to validate what you're saying. Everything on my chart, on my blood work, is bulletproof. Yet, if that's the case, why can't I sleep until through 3 in the morning?
Yep.
Why do I get severe pain?
I love answering that question.
And the point is that it's got to be something. Look, you're healthy. Your blood works fine. You're all everything going on. No cardiovascular disease. Your VO2 max is insane. Okay, great. Why don't I feel great?
Yeah.
And the funny part is it took a CT scan.
Yep.
Right? Simple TT, and somebody knowing what to look for.
Well, there's so much going on in the skull. And the fact of the matter is, our skull, which holds our brain, and our face, kind of like on the other side of it, grows with our function of breathing. Okay? So imagine when we go through the birth canal, we come out as a human first. The first breath determines that pendulum, how our face grow, the suction of the tongue at the roof of the mouth, and all of that. So if that child, from the minute one, has been compensating, they're limping along all the way as they get up and become mobile and three-dimensional humans. The compensations from the world molds this child. So by the time they're 13 years old, fully dentate, like now they're in a 3-dimension, their body cannot go through space without compensating for breathing.
And you said something last time you were in there, is that airway is gonna maintain the best it can do, and your body's gonna sacrifice itself to maintain the airway.
Yes.
Right? Isn't that the case?
It turns into a pretzel.
Right.
And that's where we see the twisted spine and your
like on Shaq's case.
Exactly. So the first thing I look at is, well, we're on 2 feet support. We're bipedal. Okay, like I'm not on the animals, are on 4. When we're standing on 2 feet, all of our functions has to suffice with that. And by the way, one of the things that makes us human is the speaking, being able to speak. So our palate or pharynx drops below our palate, which means our airway is going to have a sharp degree angle that makes it more prone to collapse. So that's more important for our airway.
To humans who are bipedal.
Yes, we think, we speak, and walk on 2 feet. That's what makes us human. That's what's killing us. So development of that airway has to go through, a lot of processes of sensory integration, motor execution, and the brain constantly is getting bombarded with life challenges and the bodies that cannot keep up with. That's just modern.
Okay, so the arc of the story for treatment for every patient is different. You go through this, and as you look through and you determine that, okay, we need, like for Shaq's case, in my case, we need to put a little extra hitch in the giddy up here. What's the next step?
So let me say something here with Shaq and a lot of other patients. It may not start with an oral appliance. For him, it started with an oral appliance. But for Shaq, he'd failed CPAP 11 times. He failed all these other things.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and so we may start at a different point, a different entry point to get everything ready to accept the oral appliance. It's really a customized thing.
And actually now the whole research for the sleep apnea is starting to look beyond just the mouth and beyond just keeping the airway open. Looking at the neck, we're looking at the pelvis. There's actually publications coming out and saying, when you see in a patient with the bottom of their spine curved and holding head forward, that is the phenotype or the posture of obstructive sleep apnea. So we're starting to understand the way we breathe 2/3 of the life in a vertical gets carried over here.
So you can actually diagnose sleep apnea by somebody's posture.
From a posture, correct. And the fact is, my job as a dentist is to put the cap on. Now, I'm gonna just give you an example. Oh my gosh, you came to a dentist, you got mouth breathing issue. Let's just go ahead and seal that mouth of yours with a tape shut. But what about this? They're still not well. It would be, where do we start? How do I get them back to orthopedically?
And how does that happen? Is that a chiropractor? Is that a back
chiropractors
surgeon?
are a huge part of what I do, and I work with a lot of chiropractors that address
specialty kind.
I was going to say, it's not just any chiropractor.
Yeah, it's not just any chiropractor.
No, and also physiotherapists and teaching.
What is a physiotherapist?
Physical therapists are
physical therapists.
Physical therapists are specialists in teaching you how to actually integrate your sensory information and execute proper motor function, because breathing is what?
It's movement.
Movement.
Yeah, it's movement.
The most basic movement we ever do as a human is breathing. Even if you are flat and completely immobile, that is the one basic movement, which is nothing but a pressure changes inside and outside of our body. We need that pressure change. We can't breathe in outer space.
Do we need
So there was a question earlier about how the doctors work together.
So do they all work with you, and then the dentist, and then the chiropractor? You're quarterbacking all of it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they all communicate, or there's a portal where they put all their notes.
And I'm so glad you mentioned this, because this is exactly how Vivos appliances are different, because Vivos appliances are the linchpin addressing this top part. But we understand until the rest of the system is aligned and we're filling that adaptive capacity, all we're doing is another reason to compensate, which is the case. For decades, dentists have been doing things exact same way with mandibular advancements and rapid expansions. You mentioned it. And it's basically prohibiting the tongue to do what it is supposed to do to seal off the system. So when you go to sleep, you do not lose adaptive capacity. So what I'm really excited about what Vivos is bringing the entire system, medical system, to work together cohesively.
Is this a permanent fix?
Yeah, we've treated over 60,000 patients now. I don't think we've treated 5 again, right? So there's not a relapse. It's about a year-long treatment now. We've reduced that, cut that in half.
It's not invasive, though.
No, I mean...
And along the way, you feel better.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
You know, that's the thing. I mean, this is what I always hear from my patients within a year. This is what I constantly hear. Even if I don't get any better from this point, I can do life. No, they're not telling me I can only sleep. I have resilience to deal with the stressors. My bucket is full, and when I go to sleep, it doesn't empty. That's what I want to hear. Because what we have conceived as health is just nothing but absence of symptoms, which is what we do in Western medicine. And I used to be a part of that first decade. Kill the symptoms. Because all I see is
But it doesn't resolve the cure.
Whoa, I did that.
It doesn't resolve the cure, though.
Prop malfunction.
Well, see that right there. Okay, so here we go.
It doesn't resolve the cure, though. It's
Right.
true to you.
Right.
So if you're only looking at it from the lens of you have just a little apnea, you've just got a little high blood pressure, and I'm going to fix the little high blood pressure, you miss the point of the whole global diagnosis, because we're too busy to treat, to diagnose globally. So that's what we do differently. And I'm so glad we got a chance to actually hone this down.
Yeah, it's good.
Because
let's make America bottles
you
again.
guys should put that on your website. That is a great analogy of how that works. Dr. Bahar, thank you so much for coming in. Once again, Kirk, we will see you as soon as next week. But thank you so much. And watch for the documentary on why the hell can't Mike Costa sleep coming to BizTV because of that.
As he walks on his knuckles. All right, and that is going to do it for this edition of the Big Biz Show. Again, thanks to Team Vivos for being here. Life-changing. They have changed my life. Look into it. If you got sleep apnea, they'll change your lives as well. Thanks to everybody here in studio for helping make the show possible. We'll see you next time.
There's this fight going on between the Fed. Again, I got to bring up a great short read that talks about what a scam the Fed is. And I'm no conspiracy theorist here as I play the Twin Peaks theme. Pulled that one out, didn't I?
That is pretty
That's pretty good.
smooth.
There you go, man. Creature from Jekyll Island would be the name of the book that you should read.
So you want to know the tale of the creature from Jekyll Island, do ya?
Perfect, I got this one, Sully. The book, published in 1994 by J. Edward Griffin, uncovers the secret history of the United States Federal Reserve System. Our journey starts in 1910, when a group of powerful bankers meet in secret on Jekyll Island just off the coast of Georgia to draft a plan for a central banking system in the United States. The group included men like J.P. Morgan, Paul Warburg, Senator Nelson Aldrich, which, a fun fact, was John D. Rockefeller's father-in-law, talk about nepotism, spent a week in secrecy discussing their plan, which would eventually become the Federal Reserve. They went disguised as duck hunters in secrecy so that they wouldn't face scrutiny from the press or the public. But really, who'd have a problem with a bunch of bankers coming up with the rules for central banking?
Look, Remy, let's just forget about last night, okay? There's just too much possibility for conflict of interest.
Oh. The name of their game is bailout. The Federal Reserve was created to address a bunch of financial panics that occurred during the 19th and 20th century. You see, the Fed was designed to be a lender of last resort, so to speak. However, the Fed's ability to bail out banks leads us to a moral hazard, where banks take on unnecessarily big risks knowing that they're going to have a bailout if anything goes wrong. Now, the Fed was originally created as protectors of the public, protecting it from financial instability and inflation, including the Great Depression, the inflation of the 1970s, and who could forget that good old 2008 financial crisis and the Great Recession. Doing great, guys. In the early years, the Fed focused on stabilizing the banking system and preventing any more bank failures. But then later, the Fed shifted its focus to controlling the economy through monetary policies, such as controlling factors like the money supply and interest rates. Sound familiar? Now, the money supply, how do you just make money? That's where they came up with the Mandrake mechanism, which pretty much means banks are only required to hold a fraction of their deposits in reserve. The rest of the deposits can be loaned out, creating new money in the process.
So let's talk about the creature that exists today.
The Fed's policies have a significant impact on inflation, employment, and economic growth. However, the Fed's independence and lack of accountability to Americans give off huge vibes of concern about its power and influence. The creature from Jekyll Island essentially argues that the Federal Reserve has been nothing but a disaster for the U.S. economy, leading to inflation, financial instability, and government debt. It suggests that a return to the gold standard and a free market approach would probably be a better alternative to the current system. Ultimately, it's a call to action for Americans to take control of their monetary system and demand more transparency and accountability from their government.
It is if you're watching, wherever you are listening, we always appreciate you being along for the ride. The handsome guy talking to you right now, it's me, I'm Costa. You're welcome, America and the world. That's Greg Todorov, our executive producer.
Do you put the Costa what is your 23andMe heritage? DNA?
Oh, I'm Scotch Italian. And a little.
There's one thing you don't see very often. Order a plate of lasagna and a Scotch neat.
Yeah, I'm cheap, but I'll kill you.
Right.
Wait a minute. You're Scotch and Italian.
Yeah.
Oh, because you're thrifty.
Yeah.
All right. Remember
the steel's from Nebraska. What? Pretty good. That's a pretty good Scotch, right?
I need Scotch now.
It's a little.
Just.
Okay, I'll just
let it go in the ether.
Yeah, let it percolate. Sorry, I'm sorry. There's no going.
But I want to know. Like you said, I'm drunk, but I steal from you. Is that what you said?
I'm cheap.
Oh,
and I'll kill you.
No,
yeah, you were close, Sully.
2 of the 4 sins. I'm sorry. My bad.
That's Irish and French.
Yeah. Okay.
That's true.
Jonathan Javitt, of course, good friend of the program, founder, director, chief scientific officer, and now chairman of the board of a company called NRX Pharmaceuticals. We've talked about suicidal ideation. You're going to see their Bizumentary. Yes, thanks. I get paid a nickel every time somebody says it on TV.
Yeah.
Ooh.
The Bizumentary is coming out here on BizTV as well as on Bloomberg and potentially coming up on Bravo. Or I beg your pardon. Bravo? There's Ovation. Bravo. Ovation, right?
Bravo.
See how I get mixed?
Both great.
Long story short is, we have a pretty good press release and things are moving forward. We've talked to Mike Taylor, our financial expert, about Hope Therapeutics and what's coming from that. News keeps getting better for NRX, and guess what I got? Because we're important. Jonathan Javitt's here. What's up, bud? Great to see you. Hey,
it's been a busy week.
It's been busy. Let's talk about, I want you to take it away because it's some pretty good news today in the market in terms of investors believing in NRX by putting in some money into the company. Talk about that.
Well, we're excited that one of the better and more thoughtful biotech funds out there, Anson Funds of Toronto, chose to bring in what will be between $10.5 and $16 million in convertible debt, and that's enough to get our drugs filed with the FDA.
You know, it's interesting. We were talking about this the other day with Mike Taylor, who's a financial expert on the program, who I know you're familiar with, saying that it's a different type of investor that takes literally the long soak. Mm-hmm. It's a fishing term. Thank you very much. Let's talk hookup. But it's a 7-year turnaround oftentimes for a startup investor into a biopharma firm because you got to go through FDA and you got to go through the bells and whistles. And oftentimes you got to raise money in between. So it's not a small task for a company like yours to go raise money. It's a testimony to investors believing in what you're doing. So that's some good news.
Well, and in our case, it's been a brutal task. We started this company in 2015, and I went and saw all the usual venture capitalists, and they all asked me the same question, which is what keeps you up at night? And I'd always have the same answer, which is, I worked on the SARS epidemic in the Bush administration, and a global pandemic would be really bad for our business. And because we're making the drug in Shanghai, which we're not doing anymore, a trade war with China would be really bad for our business. And they would all laugh. Well, it turns out we got both of those. And we survived both of those. And now we've got drugs that are ready to file with FDA and hopefully be on the market in 2025. So it's an exciting time for us.
Hey, Dr. Javitt, 2 questions for you in terms, I want to get to the drugs in a second, but I want to talk about, you talk about 2025. Do you expect to take this to market to yourselves, or do we do what they call that risk aversion model and have a larger bio firm come in, pick up the ball, take it to the finish line, and you're working on your next drug? Can you share what your thoughts are on that?
Certainly for ketamine, which is a drug that's not a home use drug, it's a drug that's going to be given in clinics. We know who those clinics are. We're already working with those clinics, and through our Hope Therapeutics division, we expect to own some of those clinics. So when you've got a potential customer base that's under 1,000 people, there's no reason to work with a large pharmaceutical company. They can't really address a market that small, that compact, very readily. So we're certainly going to do that by ourselves. Now, our second drug, NRX 101, that's anticipated to be a home use drug, is one that'll likely be prescribed by fewer than 1,600 psychiatrists in the United States. And that too is a footprint that a small company can address, although a highly motivated partner would be great to have.
So in my opinion, for you now have runway to complete the drug task, and then let's bring up Hope Therapeutics, because I think that's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Can you share on that, where this puts us now?
Well, we have runway, we have a motivated investor, and we've got data that keeps getting better. So we've been talking about data that we're going to be presenting to FDA from about 1,000 patients, showing that ketamine is better than placebo, it's better than active comparator, it's as good as electroshock therapy for treating people with suicidal depression. Well, just this week, a study of approximately 43,000 patients, not randomized and prospective the way the FDA wants, but an observational study, what's called a cohort study, was published in a leading journal, showing exactly the same effect for ketamine in reducing suicidal ideation and depression. So we have a drug that patients need, that's rapidly becoming the standard of care. That's a life-saving drug, and that's an exciting place to be.
Dr. Jonathan Javitt, Founder, Director, Chief Scientific Officer, NRX Pharmaceuticals, on the
Not
NASDAQ.
to mention Chairman of the Board.
Chairman of the Board, excuse me, sir. Also NASDAQ, NRXP.
Howie, you got a question?
Dr. Javitt, pleasure to see you, sir. Congratulations on the deal. How important is it? I noticed that Anson Funds came out with a very strong statement saying, we believe in the science, we believe in the long-term vision. How much more efficiently are you operating with a partner rather than, someone that wants a deal done quickly?
Well, I think that it's a challenge in this market to find an investor who's committed to long-term success and not just committed to how quickly can we churn the stock. As we've all seen, there are too many technical investors, and we've suffered from some of those. But the problem in the biotech market is investors who are going to take a long view, who are in the company to make patients' lives better. And not to be out next month.
I think the story is that after today's deal, you're past that. Well, maybe everyone else isn't.
I would agree. Yeah. There you go. Well, Big Biz Show. Dr. Jonathan Javitt, Chairman of the Board, CEO, Chief Scientific Officer, Director of NRX Pharma. That's some good news. You will look for the Bizumentary on NRX and suicidal ideation coming right here on BizTV. More Big Biz coming up tomorrow. See you there.